How's it going, everybody? I hope you are all having a happy hump day today, as I know that I am coming off this first day of the NBA playoffs, heading into today, where I will be giving you 5 more NBA picks today. And if you were following along yesterday, you saw that we did end up going 4-5 on those picks yesterday. The only one that did not hit was Stephen Curry, needing him to have over 4.5 rebounds into the day with 4. So we were 1 rebound away from really having a completely green slip, hitting that 10 times multiplier. Instead, we're walking away with the 2 times, going 4-1 on the day. Day before that, though, on the MLB, I gave you 4 picks. We went 3-1 on those as well. So the last 2 days, I've only missed the 2 plays. So make sure you're subscribing to this channel, getting notified anytime that these videos are dropping daily. Now, if you can't tune into the videos every single day, also make sure you're checking out that X profile as well, which is linked in the description below. It is to our main Boys on the Bench profile, but as well as my personal page where all of those picks are posted 100% free. So don't feel like you have to stress out about that. Now, also down there, what you will see me referencing is this Daily Grind Fantasy positive EV betting tool. And that's where I'm really making all of these bets really by myself, looking at what positive EV value we're getting. Because guys, at the end of the day, the point is no matter how much research you feel like you need to do or have to do, it's not really worth it. The books are going to tell you where you really need to play because they spend millions of dollars in research every single year. Unless you're like me, I don't have millions of dollars to spend on research every single year. So I'm going to listen to the books that do and kind of see where those discrepancies are. And that's exactly where Daily Grind Fantasy comes in. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into today's picks. Now, if we hop over here to PrizePicks, you can go ahead and see that these are my top picks, with Kobe White going over 4.5 rebounds, Caleb Martin under 2.5 assists, Haywood Highsmith going over 0.5 3-pointers made, Tyrese Maxey over 9.5 rebounds plus assists, and then lastly, Tobias Harris going over one block shot, or over half a block shot. So we hop over to Daily Grind Fantasy, looking at our first play that we have here, Kobe White coming in at number 1. And again, guys, they offer so many more. I filtered this by just the 4 teams that are playing today. So that's why we're only seeing this, but there's crazy positive EV value that we're getting. So make sure you're checking them out. But as I mentioned, Kobe White here is the favorite play today. Rebounds over 4.5, coming in at 54.7% odds to hit, with an average juice of minus 141. Because if we look here, really all these sports books have lines, and the lowest one they're getting is from FanDuel at minus 122, which means that if you have FanDuel and you're looking to make a single parlay bet, then this is a really good book to make it on as well, because typically PrizePicks comes in at that minus 119 odds. With that minus 122, you're getting pretty good odds as well, considering a lot of these books are coming in at 130, 150, 151, 138, 135, and then Flip coming in at minus 170, kind of that outlier, which I don't necessarily love, but we have other books who are heavily favoring this as well. So now we hop over here to outlier as well, and we see what we are getting. We can see, again, we're looking for over 4.5 rebounds for Kobe White. And looking at his last 10, he has only hit this in 2 out of his last 10, has not hit this in 7 straight for him. So definitely not great for him. And if we look at his minutes of play, they're all pretty high. He's getting his typical minutes. Typically, you can start to see some of those minutes fade with a lot of these teams nearing the end of the season. That didn't seem to be the point with Kobe White. Although I do expect him to be near that 40-minute average today, especially with this being a playoff game. But where I really like him in this position, the Atlanta Hawks versus the point guard position, they allow the 27th most, or really the fourth most in all of the NBA. So they're allowing a ton of rebounds. Overall, they're not really a good rebounding team, really bottom 10, bottom 11 in the NBA, which is a really good opportunity for us. Rebounding chances, we can see here, he sits middle of the pack, kind of just 6 to 7, nothing really too great in terms of rebounds, but it's good enough. Now, if we look at head-to-head and how he's done, he's had 3 opportunities versus this Atlanta Hawks team. He's only cleared it in 1 chance, so it doesn't have great historical value versus them. Looking at rebounding chances, though, it's sitting at where he typically sits at, that 7.88, which we saw earlier there for him. Minute-wise, again, sitting around the mid to high 30s. I expect him to be kind of in the 40s today. So anyways, though, doesn't look like necessarily great historical value. So as a typical bettor, you may say, hey, this is trending to look like it's the under, because there's a lot of data that supports the under. That's where the beauty of daily grind fantasy comes in, is because all of these sports books are very heavily favoring that over, and that's what I will be taking today. Now, the second pick that I had for you was the play right up under it, that Caleb Martin under 2.5 assists, coming in just under at 54.55%. Again, all of these books are coming in on it. The lowest odd chance that we are getting is that minus 130, but a lot of these are coming in nearly that 140. We're getting average odds of minus 141 again with this play. So if we go look at Outlier again, looking at under 2.5 assists for him. Looking at his last 10, he's only hit this in 3 out of his last 10 games and 3 out of his last 6 as well. Now, again, small forwards, they are second in assist allowed to the small forward position, which is very good. So yes, Caleb Martin has been doing really good in terms of assists here lately. Looking at his minutes, again, it's what his typical season average is playing an average of 28 minutes over this span, which is probably about what we're looking at for him today. Now, if we look at his head-to-head matchups and how he's done versus the 76ers team, we can see again in the 4 matchups that he's played versus them this season, he's kind of had the high of a 3. So he's just kind of hooked this in a sense for us. But again, not a lot. If we look at potential assists for him, and again, minute wise, again, kind of that season average that we're seeing around that 28. Kind of 30s. Potential assists, though, coming in at 5 on every single one of these games this season versus them. We can also see here that Caleb Martin has failed to exceed 2.5 assists in 10 of his last 12 games on the road. So he's definitely not as good on the road as he is at home. And again, versus this Philadelphia team who is very good versus assists allowed, he's only managed to get 3 in 2 of those games. Yes, it was in the most recent one. But we're getting really good odds, like I said, from that daily grind fantasy, which we've used the last 2 days to net positive, right? So under 2.5 assists for Caleb Martin here today. Now, if we go back to PrizePicks, see what our next pick is. That is this Haywood Highsmith going over 0.5 3-pointers made. So if you go look for him, he has a couple plays under him going over 0.5 3-pointers made at a 54.34% chance to hit and minus 130. And if we look here, again, all of these are pretty consistent, coming in at pretty good odds. Minus 140, minus 139, minus 142. Okay, getting pretty good odds there. So go to Outlier here. We can see if we look at his last 10, he's hit this in 7 out of his last 10 games. And 3-pointers made versus small forwards. This Miami or the 76ers defense is pretty good versus stopping the 3-pointers made. Overall, they're top 10, especially versus the position. They're top 8. Top 10 as well, coming in at number 8. But Haywood Highsmith has been very successful here recently. Again, like I said, hitting 7 out of his last 10. Looking at his opportunities, his minutes coming in at 27 average. Which again, probably expect that seems to be his season average as well. 3-pointers made, he's kind of 4, mid-4s, mid-5, anything like that. So again, we're really looking for him to have 1, which I really like that number coming in at 4 to 5, maybe even 6. But if we look at how he's done head-to-head versus this team, we can see that in the 3 matchups that he's played versus them this season, he's hitting every single one of them with 2, 3, and 4. And we look at 3-point attempts, it's really good. And that first matchup versus them this season in February, he had 10 attempts, then 6, then 4 versus them in their last matchup. So he's having a ton of opportunities. Really good. He's hit this line in every single matchup that he's played versus them this season, which is indicating to be very well. Although, again, this team is very good at stopping the 3. We're only looking for him to have 1 3-pointer made today. And really, on the season versus this team, he's had 9 total between the 3 games. So really love him to go over 0.5 3-pointers made. Going on to the next pick that I have for you, though, top back over here to PrizePicks, and that's that Tyrese Maxey over 9.5 rebounds plus assists. So looking here, got to scroll down a little bit more on this one too. And again, we're starting to get in this little orange to red area, but we're still getting pretty decent value coming in at that 53.74. Over 9.5 rebounds plus assist, average odds at minus 136. Again, a lot of these books coming in, having some of them kind of dip down a little bit, and a lot more sitting around that 130, not necessarily in those 140 ranges, indicating it's likely why that's not in that 54%, but still pretty good odds, as I mentioned. Going over here to Outlier again, Tyrese Maxey. If we look at his head-to-head matchup versus this Miami defense, again, assist alone, he's nearly hit this line. We're only looking for 9.5. So really 10 is that number. Well, in his previous 2 matchups versus them, 11 assists, 10 assists, and then 7 assists. So he's nearly hit this line in just assists alone, but we're still racking up 9 rebounds, 8 rebounds, 6 rebounds. So really love him in this game. Again, it looks, I expect a lot of the same minute usage over that time. He's sitting around that 40, which I expect today, maybe even more potential assist opportunities. You can just see he's absolutely skyrocketing. This team is not very good versus assists allowed to the point guard position, coming in at the 8th the most to rank 23rd, which is really good. And again, he has a ton of opportunities at 17, 12, 15. Rebounding chances, he's double digits as well, 12, 13, 11. And if you look at his last 10 and how he's performed as well, not necessarily the greatest for him, hitting only 4 out of his last 10, but also 4 out of his last 7 as well. So it's really his last 2 games. Minute wise, if we look at how many minutes he's played, see if we kind of saw a dip in kind of some of these games where we usually see him playing in the 40s. Here, he saw 2 games in the 20s over his last 7, where we saw him, hit 4 out of his last 7. So anyways, though, I really like this Tyrese Maxey play a lot. He's dominated them here recently, this entire season. So I expect a lot of that today for him. But that does bring us to our last pick that I have for you, and that is Tobias Harris going over 0.5 blocked shots. See what we're getting from Daily Grind Fantasy. If we see here, it's that play right above him, coming into that 54.14% chance to hit. And we see here, again, 130, 140, 130, getting really good odds across the board from these multiple sports books. So if we see what Outlier is giving us, if we look at his last 20 games, you can see that he's hit this in 14 out of his last 20, last 10. He's hit this in 9 out of his last 10. So he's been doing very good here recently. Minute-wise, again, we saw some dips here, but I do expect him to kind of be that mid-high 30s where we typically see him, seasons on the line. So definitely love this. You can see, again, like I said, he's exceeded not only 9 straight games, but he's also exceeded or 9 out of his last 10 games, but he's also exceeded 0.5 blocks in 9 straight home games as well, averaging 1.5 blocks per game average, which is very good for him. So definitely love that. It almost looks like a guarantee to have a block a game. Head to head, let's see how he's done. He hasn't played them this season. I guess he's been injury ridden versus all of the games. So this will be the first time playing them this season. So we're really having to look at his last 10, last 20, where he's performed very well, hitting 90 in his last 10, 90% in his last 10, and 70% in his last 20. But anyways, everybody, these are my top 5 NBA picks. Make sure you are checking the links in the description, getting all of that information you need. Start turning these slips green. Check out Daily Grind Fantasy. I'm telling you, it's one of the best investments that you can make. And use the code BENCH to get 25% off your first month. And I'm telling you, you won't look back. Got to use it. Got to check it out. Don't forget to check out that X profile as well. Anyways, let's have a happy hump day, and I will see y'all tomorrow.